Day, 4 heads of state departed the African continent on a peace mission to Ukraine and Russia. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa's protection services as well as a media contingency were denied passage to Ukraine. Today, the heads of state head on over to Russia, and one of the media personnel that were also denied passage to Ukraine is Newzroom Afrika's Govan Whittles, who was following the president of South Africa. He's standing by from Poland to give us an update in terms of what the latest is today, at least. Govan, good morning.
Good morning, Dudu. Joining you from Warsaw in Poland. So what's been confirmed is that the president has arrived back in Poland. He'll make his way to the city of Rzeszów and then from there head over to St. Petersburg. And then the president is likely to conduct that visit with Vladimir Putin. Yesterday, a few interesting remarks emerging from the meeting between the African heads of state and the president of Ukraine. Firstly, that the Ukrainians have pushed for the further isolation of Russia. In response, the South African president at least pushing for both sides to negotiate. The Ukrainians showed the African delegation the site of mass graves, which they say is the site of the atrocities committed by the Kremlin regime. But in response to that, the South African president said that there is still an investigation that is underway, and he believes that that investigation should be allowed to continue. They've described the interest in this peace mission as being about the grain prices and excess of grain to South Africa. Remember that Russia renewed that Black Sea grain deal, which it threatened to pull the plug on in the middle of May if the sanctions against it weren't lowered. But it ended up renewing that deal, so the passage remains open. The president saying they're very concerned about that. It's had a material impact on access of grain to Kenya. The South African president also saying that he hopes he'll be able to take forward this peace process, which is essentially meant to build confidence between Kyiv and the Kremlin in Moscow for talks to actually take place. He says that they hope that the fact that they're meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky and then meeting with Vladimir Putin, the two presidents, will inspire confidence and lead to them opening talks with one another. Today, he's heading over to Russia. He was meant to be flying into St. Petersburg by 10 a.m. this morning. It's been severely delayed. Yesterday, he was taken to the hotel after air raid sirens were sounded in Kyiv. The Ukrainian president also describing that as an act of aggression by Russia meant to intimidate the visiting heads of state. We've seen reporting saying it's highly unusual for air sirens to be sounded during the day. Also, no independent confirmation of any explosions in Kyiv, aside from the reports by the mayor of Kyiv. So the stakes are set for difficult talks today between the Russian president and the African delegation, which are expected to get underway in the afternoon. As for us here in Poland, we've had confirmation that we won't be traveling to Russia. The South African government has failed to secure permits to cross Hungarian airspace. That might seem like a small detail, but remember that we were circling around or just on the border of the Italian airspace over the Mediterranean Ocean on our way here because they had initially secured permits to fly over Italy and then those needed to be renewed while we were in the air. It's been a logistical nightmare for the team that's been traveling here. They have many questions as to why this is happening and questioning who may be pulling the strings behind the scenes. No definitive answers on that yet, but we will try to cover as much as we can about the African peace mission here from Poland.
Yeah, in terms of the newspapers there, language permitting, is there any report on the peace mission?
Basically, our reports, what happened to us, the Polish saying that the main reason why we were not allowed to disembark from the plane for 26 hours was because there weren't permits for the weapons that were being held by the Presidential Protection Services that were here. The head of their PPS, Major General Wally Rhoda, disagrees. He says they showed them photocopies, then they showed them originals of the documents, and after they did that, they were told to bring the documents to a different place. He says that when we asked to disembark from the plane, they claimed that we didn't want it because we didn't want to leave our weapons behind. Of course, the PPS denies this. We can tell you from being on the plane that they were trying to disembark for a long time, and they weren't being allowed to do so. But then, there is still a small group of security personnel stuck on the train. They were left there so that they could guard the weapons, which the Polish are not allowing the passengers to take out of the cargo hold. That, of course, includes our luggage, which is why, unfortunately, I'm wearing a T-shirt today. I had to go shopping around here for something. But we now know definitively that we'll head back to South Africa on the 18th. That's on Sunday. Essentially, we'll wait for the president to finish his meeting in St. Petersburg. He'll come back to Poland, and then we'll fly to South Africa.
Does that include the President's protection services? Are they also not going to Russia?
At least the delegation that's with us. It's important to note that the President has security teams that are with him right now. The guys that were on the plane were meant to hold different positions within Ukraine, in Kyiv, along the route, same in St. Petersburg, to ensure that it happens safely. But this does raise a broader question, which is, if the president is able to travel to arguably one of the most dangerous countries in the world, which is at war at the moment, where air sirens are being sounded during the day without 100 of the PPS members, then how many security officers does the president need to have in place for him to be safe? Because he conducted that visit to the Ukraine without incident, partly because of the assistance of the Ukrainian security personnel. But it now does call into question whether the deployment of over 100 security officers is excessive, or whether there were other movements behind the scenes which were happening to make up for the fact that these security officers weren't in place, and that essentially there were other security teams that were filling their place. That, of course, is something we'll have to take up once we get back to South Africa.
Sure. And get the other side of the story. Thank you very much, Govan Whittles, for that report.